Yo, today I'd like to jump right into things and get into Reiki Level 1. This is the synopsis of what I was taught during Level 1, and it is something that hopefully you will take some time to go through if you're interested in practicing before you go to Level 2. I took about a year, I think, maybe a little less on Level 1 before I went up to Level 2, and I'm glad I did, and I'll tell you why. So in Level 1, as we've discussed, and you've seen from the videos, you are practicing Reiki. You're using your hands to practice Reiki, primarily on yourself, although you can practice on other people. When you're working on yourself, you're feeling the energy for the first time, and while you're feeling the energy work on yourself, hopefully as you sort of allow thoughts to go along with the session that you're doing for yourself, no matter how brief it may be, you begin to understand that the work on the body and the work on the self are joined. I'll give you a perfect for instance. So when I started practicing Reiki, I was about 24, I think. And when I was in high school, I did a lot of sports, and I did a lot of basketball, even like outside my house where we had a basketball net. In total, throughout my teenage years, I probably sprained both of my ankles around 10 to 11 times each. When I started doing sports in college, I noticed the ankle problem as well, particularly when I did boxing. And when I started doing Reiki, my ankles were one of the first spots that I found my hands gravitating to. And as I did more and more, I found that I was keeping them very tight, sort of storing the trauma of the 10 or 11 events each that caused it to be on edge, my ankles, to be tight. But as I released that tension and as I allowed the good vibes to flow, shall we say, I realized that my ankles weren't just hurting from the sprains. My ankles and the sprains were sort of representing how I was always trying to jump higher, do more, achieve greater in order to, well, get that thing, right? Get that shiny thing, get that accomplishment, be worthy in my parents' eyes of having done enough, be worthy in my school's eyes of bringing honor to the school, and be worthy in society's eyes for existing. Once I learned that though Reiki can empower you and enliven you to achieve, and I would argue that there's very little that differs between Reiki and what people would call law of attraction, the goal of healing is not just to heal the symptom. If there's a root cause to your problem that's going to make it be a recurring thing, then healing the symptom doesn't really help. Again, that's why I like to, when I do sessions on people, I like to speak with them about some of the influences that Reiki's had on me while I was working on a particular problem spot. So while you're doing Reiki Level 1, you want to get comfy, healing yourself first and noticing these sort of self changes in you as you heal yourself with any long-standing issues or whatever that you might address. Now, this doesn't mean that when you first start laying hands on yourself, you're just going to be miraculously healed of all of your problems. I'm not saying that can't happen, but if you're just starting out, that's not the point. I mean, I struggle to personify it. I don't struggle, I hesitate to personify it, but I feel like Reiki kind of loves us, and you won't have huge gains at first. It's not that it's not possible, it's just that Reiki isn't in the business of breaking your brain. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, Reiki doesn't want you on a power trip. And if you're unable to adjust or interact or assuage or work with your ego as you open up to Reiki, it can be very tempting to think you are the one who is distributing, who's commanding the Reiki into the person. And if they have any benefits or if they have any healing that happens to them, there's this sort of mania that can build in spiritual practitioners that we're all susceptible to. That can, well, it can fuel the ego and make it balloon and make your pride swell and make you think that, well, you are more influential than you actually are. So what I'm trying to say is the Reiki knows. The Reiki knows where it needs to go, and it knows how much to be healed, and it knows that the amount healed is exactly what the person needs to get to the next step of their healing. And the next step of their healing may be outside of the room where you gave them the Reiki session. So that's why in level 1, it's really important to work on yourself a lot, because you can notice these changes and you can notice that there's a lot to these changes. Like if you're working on, I don't know, like a shoulder, like a stressed shoulder that you have, you may find that actually you yourself are overworked and you've been so busy piling on work for yourself that you haven't realized that all of this extra stress that you're building up is in your shoulder. Does that mean you have to work less? No. It means do some Reiki on your shoulder and maybe you'll feel the energy you need to keep up with your busy schedule. That's the kind of thing that Reiki offers. Reiki isn't here to wag a finger at you and say, oh, well, you can only heal if you do X, Y, and Z. Reiki is with you, it is in you, and it works with us, not as an oppositional force that we have to overcome in order to become better. So that's what I kind of mean about how as you do level 1 Reiki, you're working on your body, you're working on yourself and your issues, you're opening up to them and allowing yourself to process them, even if the processing is just a warm, fuzzy feeling that you feel in place of a sucky feeling about something that you used to feel. And you're hopefully getting confident enough with this process with yourself that if you decide to go and work on other people, lay hands on other people, and they are going through changes with the Reiki, you can help facilitate the change and be a helpful component for them. Okay, so in conclusion, level 1, lay hands on yourself, feel the vibe, lay hands on others if you feel confident. Keep your expectations low. Ideally, keep your expectations non-existent, because you will be surprised. And if your expectations are low, well, the surprise when you feel Reiki working and when Reiki kind of does its little wink at you to let you know that you're on the right track, it will feel great if you're not expecting the world from it. And finally, and this is all the time with Reiki, watch your head. Watch your head, watch your ego. Make sure your pride is not swelling. Make sure you're reminding yourself that you're tapping into something. You are not commanding it. So yeah, go nuts, have fun. I think I got a solid 20, 25 people now who are watching these videos. So I really hope everyone who's been sticking along so far is going to try at least some of this. Give it a shot. You'd be surprised how much just doing this, on your chest or on your stomach, can alleviate, can help. That's level 1 in a nutshell. What I want to do now is I'm going to make a series of videos on the chakra system. Yes, Usui himself, I admit, I've never really found any definitive evidence that Usui and Takata were into the chakra system. They had hand placements that they sort of prescribed to other practitioners for the session. And I also want to do a video, or maybe a series of videos as well, on the hand placements. I'm gonna see if I can convince my wife to be a human person to show the positions on, and I'll try to figure it out. And again, we're gonna do the chakras, and I will explain as we get into them why it's important to know. For brevity here, the reason that I do chakras in my practice is because the chakra system, which comes from the old ye old Sanskrit days, those systems, those energetic systems that were studied for a long time by mystics and spiritual practitioners in the East, they also correspond with organ systems, and organ systems are 100% real. And when you're doing Reiki, when you start learning the hand placements, you'll see that many of the hand placements you're doing are actually on organ centers, which in things like acupuncture, things like that, are represented by the chakras. And the chakras themselves have metaphysical meanings that correspond with the healing and growth of the different organ centers. So that's why I choose to include it in my practice. And I've been including it with my practice for 10 years now. So I'm very eager to show you guys kind of my take on it and how I think it kind of, how the chakra systems has to do with Reiki. I'm gonna, like I said, I'll do a series. I think I'll do all 7, and I'll try to do some hand placement videos as well. So thank you guys. Have a good day.